That nickel in your pocket could be worth hundreds or even thousands. From Buffalo nickels to Jefferson errors, some 5-cent coins are treasures hiding in plain sight. The 1995 coin, better known as the Jefferson nickel, might look like an ordinary piece of change to most people. After all, billions of nickels pass through our hands every year, often without notice. They're tossed into coin jars, handed over at gas stations, or left rattling at the bottom of car cup holders. But for collectors and numismatists, the 1990 nickel holds a special place in U.S. coinage history. It's one of those coins that, under the right circumstances, transforms from a simple 5-cent piece into an extraordinary treasure. Some rare examples of this coin have fetched jaw-dropping prices, reaching anywhere from $50,000 to as much as $124,000 at auction, making it one of the hidden gems of modern American currency. The story of the Jefferson nickel began in 1938, when it replaced the Buffalo nickel that had been in circulation since 1913. Designed by Felix Schlag, the Jefferson nickel featured a left-facing portrait of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his home, Monticello, on the reverse. The design became one of the most enduring in American coinage, remaining in use for decades with only minor changes. By 1990, the Jefferson nickel had become a cornerstone of U.S. pocket change, instantly recognizable to anyone who used it. But while most nickels struck that year are only worth their face value, some extraordinary factors have made certain 1990 nickels incredibly valuable to collectors. One of the first things to consider about the 1990 nickel is the sheer number of coins minted. The Philadelphia and Denver mints struck hundreds of millions of these coins, and the San Francisco Mint produced proof versions for collectors. With such large mintages, you'd think there would be nothing rare or special about the coin. However, history has taught collectors that within these vast numbers are small pockets of rarity. Error coins, misstrikes, and high-grade survivors that stand out from the rest. These are the coins that fuel the excitement, because they're so uncommon and so desirable to those who understand their true value. Mint errors are perhaps the most dramatic reason why a 1990 nickel can soar in price. Among the most popular are off-center strikes. This happens when the coin blank isn't properly seated in the press, causing the design to be struck off balance. Sometimes, the result is a coin with part of the design missing, or with blank areas of the planchet still visible. Collectors go wild for these errors, especially if the date is still intact. An off-center 1990 nickel in high grade can easily push values into the tens of thousands, depending on how extreme the misstrike is. Another error that makes 1990 nickels stand out is the double die error. This occurs when the coin's design is imprinted more than once at slightly different angles, resulting in noticeable doubling on inscriptions like Liberty or In God We Trust. Doubling can also sometimes appear on Jefferson's profile or the date. These kinds of errors are rare and highly collectible because they show such a clear departure from the intended design. When paired with pristine condition, a double-die 1990 nickel could very well be worth anywhere from $50,000 to $124,000, depending on demand at auction. Wrong planchet errors are another fascinating variety that turn heads in the collecting world. Every once in a while, a nickel design gets struck on a planchet intended for another denomination, like a penny or dime. When this happens, the result is a coin that weighs differently, looks unusual, and is instantly recognizable as something special. A 1990 nickel struck on a copper cent blank or a foreign coin planchet is an extraordinary rarity. These coins have sold for staggering amounts when authenticated and graded, because their very existence defies the expectations of ordinary mint production. Die cracks and filled dies also contribute to the value of some 1990 nickels. A die crack occurs when the die used to strike coins begins to wear out, leaving raised lines across the coin's surface. A filled die, on the other hand, happens when grease or debris blocks part of the design, leaving blank or faint areas. While not as dramatic as off-center strikes or wrong planchet errors, these kinds of anomalies still create collectible variations that are much more desirable than a standard 1990 nickel. Condition is another crucial factor in determining value. Most 1990 nickels were used heavily in circulation, meaning they've suffered scratches, wear, and discoloration. But the rare examples that were preserved in mint state condition or carefully set aside by collectors are the ones that command the biggest prices. Coins graded MS 65 or higher are especially valuable, and proof versions from the San Francisco Mint can be even more impressive when struck without flaws. A 1990 nickel in perfect or near-perfect condition can leap far beyond its face value, making it a prime target for serious collectors willing to pay top dollar. Auction history provides some of the most exciting stories about these coins. Collectors have seen ordinary-looking 1990 nickels sell for extraordinary sums because of their condition, rarity, or errors. One collector who stumbled upon a nearly flawless example sent it in for grading, only to discover it was a high-grade double die. That coin later sold for tens of thousands of dollars, changing the collector's life in an instant. It's stories like these that keep people searching, because the idea of finding a nickel worth $124,000 is too thrilling to ignore. What makes the 1990 nickel particularly special is that it's modern enough that people don't always expect it to be valuable. Most casual coin hunters think of old coins, pieces from the 1800s or early 1900s, as the ones worth money. But the truth is that modern coins can hold just as much treasure, if not more, because minting errors and rare varieties often slip through unnoticed. The 1990 nickel is a perfect example of this. It blends into everyday circulation, yet hidden among the millions of ordinary examples are coins that collectors are willing to pay a fortune to own. Another reason collectors are so drawn to the 1990 nickel is the nostalgia factor. For many, it's a coin tied to their childhood or early memories of handling money. Having a chance to discover a rare and valuable version of a coin they grew up with adds a deeply personal layer of excitement to the hunt. It's not just about the monetary value. It's about connecting to history and memory through something as simple as a piece of pocket change. The hunt for a valuable 1990 nickel is open to everyone. You don't need to be a professional collector or spend thousands to get started. Every time you receive change, every time you check a coin jar, every time you open a roll of nickels from the bank, you could be holding a treasure. All it takes is paying attention to the details, the strike, the alignment, the condition. Those small things are what separate an ordinary nickel from one worth up to $124,000. So the next time a 1990 nickel crosses your path, take a closer look. Examine the inscriptions, the date, Jefferson's profile, and the Monticello design. Look for doubling, off-center strikes, or unusual metal composition. If the coin shines in mint condition, it could be far more than just 5 cents. It could be one of the rare treasures that turns everyday pocket change into a collector's dream. The Jefferson nickel has been a symbol of American history, design, and craftsmanship for decades, and the 1990 edition proves that even in a year where billions of coins were minted, hidden gems exist. Whether it's a dramatic error, a pristine high-grade example, or a coin struck under unusual conditions, the 1990 nickel has earned its reputation as one of the most fascinating modern coins in circulation. For those lucky enough to find one of these rare pieces, the reward can be staggering, ranging from $50,000 to as much as $124,000. And that's why collectors, hobbyists, and everyday people alike continue to keep their eyes open, hoping to turn a 5-cent coin into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. The 2020 United States 5-cent coin, more commonly known as the Jefferson nickel, is one of those pieces of modern coinage that most people never give a second thought to. It circulates by the billions, passed through hands, dropped into vending machines, and collected in jars without much notice. Yet, as with so many coins in American history, within the sea of ordinary examples lies a small number of extraordinary survivors, coins so pristine, unique, or unusual that they capture the attention of collectors and, in some cases, command staggering values in the numismatic marketplace. What makes the 2020 nickel fascinating is not just its design and its place in the ongoing story of American currency, but the fact that a select few examples of this coin have stunned collectors by reaching values between $35,000 and $90,000. That is a truly remarkable figure for a coin worth only 5 cents at face value, and it has cemented the 2020 nickel as one of the most intriguing modern collectibles. The Jefferson nickel has a long and distinguished history, having first been introduced in 1938 to replace the Buffalo nickel. For over 80 years, the coin has featured the image of Thomas Jefferson, America's third president and principal author of the Declaration of Independence. By 2020, the obverse carried the modernized portrait of Jefferson that was introduced in 2006, based on a Rembrandt Peale painting. Jefferson's face stares forward in a 3/4 profile, his gaze slightly direct, making the design feel fresh and bold compared to earlier versions. The word liberty, written in Jefferson's own script, is positioned on the left, with the motto "In God We Trust" above and the year 2020 displayed clearly. On the reverse, the coin features Jefferson's Virginia home, Monticello, the neoclassical mansion that has long been a national symbol of Jefferson's legacy. The design captures both the individuality of Jefferson and the strength of the American spirit. But if the design of the 2020 nickel is familiar, what elevates certain examples to extraordinary heights is their condition, rarity, and unique anomalies. Most 2020 nickels circulated heavily, suffering from scratches, dings, and loss of luster almost immediately after leaving the mint. Coins of this kind are plentiful and of little collector value beyond their face worth. Yet those few that were struck with precision and preserved in flawless, uncirculated condition, what numismatists call mint state, stand out dramatically. When examined under magnification, these coins reveal sharp, crisp details in Jefferson's portrait, smooth fields that gleam with original luster, and edges free of any imperfections. Such specimens are highly prized by collectors, and when graded by professional services at the highest levels, they can bring eye-opening prices. The real intrigue, however, often lies in minting errors. Coins that were mistruck or display unusual variations are among the most highly sought after by collectors. In the case of the 2020 nickel, error varieties such as double strikes, off-center strikes, or die clashes can take an ordinary coin and transform it into a treasure. Sometimes errors occur when the die is misaligned, leading to details being stamped in the wrong places, or when the coin is struck more than once, creating a doubling effect on the design. Even more subtle errors, such as slight variations in the lettering, or a weak strike that causes some parts of the coin to look faint, can intrigue collectors and dramatically increase value. A rare error nickel from 2020, authenticated and preserved in high grade, is precisely the kind of piece that could fall into that astonishing price range of $35,000 to $90000. What makes the story of the 2020 nickel even more compelling is that this is a coin minted in very recent history. Many collectors overlook modern coins, assuming they are too new to be of any significant value. After all, billions were made, and most people see them as common pocket change. But this assumption is what makes the few valuable examples even more attractive. While others dismiss the 2020 nickel, astute collectors recognize that rare errors and pristine specimens from this year represent hidden opportunities. Over time, as these coins become harder to find in untouched condition, their rarity only increases, driving demand higher. Consider the journey of a coin struck in 2020. From the moment it left the mint, it was likely tossed into bags, shipped to banks, and distributed into circulation. Most were spent at convenience stores or clinked together in cash registers. That constant handling ensures that very few survived without blemishes. For a nickel to make it through the chaos of circulation unscathed, it often had to be pulled aside immediately after minting, set aside by a collector, sealed in protective packaging, or discovered in a mint roll before it ever hit circulation. That's why the high-grade survivors are so rare. Auction stories have added to the buzz around this coin. Collectors are always thrilled when a modern coin achieves results typically associated with much older rarities. When a 2020 nickel crosses the block in pristine mint state or bearing a dramatic error, bidding can become intense. What starts as a simple 5-cent piece quickly escalates into a prize worth tens of thousands of dollars. Witnessing a coin like this sell for $35,000 or even $90,000 shocks many newcomers to the hobby, but seasoned collectors understand the forces at play: rarity, condition, and collector demand. The appeal of the 2020 nickel is not just financial. There is something special about holding a coin that represents a bridge between the everyday and the extraordinary. For some collectors, owning a flawless example of this coin means preserving a snapshot of history, an object that will only grow in rarity and significance as time moves on. The coin serves as both a connection to Jefferson's enduring legacy and a reminder of how even the most ordinary objects in daily life can become symbols of value when viewed through the right lens. The details of the design also come alive in high-grade examples. Jefferson's portrait shows depth and character. The fine lines of his hair and the definition in his clothing captured with remarkable sharpness. On the reverse, Monticello gleams with architectural detail, the columns and steps clear and defined, as if freshly struck. Coins in circulation rarely display this level of artistry because of wear, but those rare gems preserved in untouched condition reveal the full intention of the mint's engraving. For collectors, this attention to detail is part of the allure. Looking forward, the 2020 nickel is poised to become increasingly significant in the world of numismatics. While many still see it as too modern, collectors know that time changes perception. Just as coins from the 1960s or 1970s have grown into desirable collectibles, the 2020 nickel will follow the same path. With only a handful of top-quality or error examples available, the coin's value is likely to rise further in coming decades. Those who hold such coins now may find their investment rewarded many times over. The lesson of the 2020 nickel is clear. Never overlook a coin just because it seems common or recent. Modern coins can carry just as much intrigue and potential as their older counterparts, and sometimes more. With the right combination of condition, rarity, and error, even a 5-cent piece can astonish the collecting community. The 2020 nickel demonstrates how the ordinary becomes extraordinary, how a coin meant for circulation can instead become a prize worth $35,000 to $90,000. So, the next time you come across a nickel dated 2020, take a moment to study it. Look closely at Jefferson's portrait, check the reverse for Monticello's details, and examine the coin for any signs of errors or unusual characteristics. What may look like just another piece of change could, in fact, be something truly remarkable. Among billions of ordinary nickels, one coin can stand apart, not only as a representation of American history and craftsmanship, but as a rare treasure valued far beyond its humble beginnings.